So we have Dr. Marinelli and Dr. Nelson both on right now. There's no way, again, that I can introduce themselves better than they can, other than to tell you they are incredible, incredible admissions experts. I'm going to let Dr. Marinelli and Dr. Nelson take it away, and I'll see you all in an hour.
So welcome, everyone. It's nice to kind of be a part of this really huge experience. It's an honor to be talking here today.
I'm going to let you take this one too, Dr. Nelson.
Oh, good.
Of course, this is just another light topic, you know, just for an easy Saturday morning topic. No, seriously, we could do, and we have done whole webinars on just the personal statement.
Yes.
But if you want to just take a few minutes and tell students about what it is, why it's so important, and, you know, why we put such an emphasis on it.
Sure. So the personal statement is kind of your first representation of yourself when you get to that holistic phase to the admissions committee. It's typically the first thing that they kind of hone in on after getting through that first filter. And the first thing I would recommend with the personal statement is get some help with this. I myself am not a great writer. I wasn't never been a great writer. When you and Dr. Maida set up Med School Coach, I think it was such a brilliant idea to bring that triad team approach to the writing materials, where we have writing advisors who are experts in writing as part of the team that help the student and the physician advisor with the written materials, so that not only is the content good, but the content is written well. So I help the students kind of get the content organized, and then the writing advisor and the student work on making that look nice and the most impactful from a writing standpoint. One of the pitfalls I've seen in students over the years and working with them is they write their personal statement from the perspective, sole perspective of why they want to be a doctor. Now, that is part of the personal statement, but I would say that it's more important to write from the perspective of why you will be a good doctor. Mm-hmm. And so there's a little bit of both. And I would say that the second one is the most important on kind of showcasing the skills and aptitudes, the competencies that you have acquired through your different experiences that will translate into you being a good doctor. I tell students, when admissions committees are reading through hundreds of these and trying to find, the one or two or three out of those hundreds that they're going to accept, they're not looking for the coolest reason why you want to be a doctor. They're looking to find who's gone out and done the things that will set them up to succeed in medical school.
Completely agree. And I mean, just add a baseline too. If you are writing a personal statement and you're submitting an application, they know you want to be a doctor. You don't need to convince them at that point. You've already taken all these steps. So more importantly is why you're going to be a good doctor. I think the only caveat I will say to that is some more emphasis can be placed on, maybe that balance is shifted a little bit for non-traditional applicants that are like career changers. I think those people maybe should take a little bit more time to explain why they want to be a doctor. Like I've seen nurses transition to becoming a physician. I've seen people in business or financial institutions applying to medical school. And I think those people, there's always this little bit of doubt in medical school admissions committees, like, are you sure you want to, to stop your career right now and then go to medical school and residency and all of this? So I do think maybe those people in those special circumstances maybe emphasize that career trajectory a bit more. But for the, more traditional student, yeah, it's all about what is going to really make you stand out. What is going to make you so qualified and that they want you, because they're gonna wow, they're going to be a really excellent physician one day. They're going to be an excellent colleague to work with.
Yep, agreed. And when I work with those career changers, it's important when they talk about that, okay, switching trajectories, to focus on the right reasons for switching. It's not so much, I want some financial stability and career. I mean, that's not the right reasons. It's more so, what is unique about being a physician? Well, there's a lot of leadership involved. There's a lot of complex decision-making involved, you know, so focusing on those things of it and then showing how you have then displayed those aptitudes in different situations so that
Yeah.
you'll do well in that situation.
Yep, absolutely. Um, just for time's sake, we're gonna move on from the personal statement. Again, like we could spend an entire webinar on this. So hopefully Owen or someone out there could drop in the chat some resources or a link to our personal statement guidebook that you can download, because we know this is a struggle for a lot of students. And sometimes the biggest struggle is just putting something down on, you know, paper, or not really paper anymore, typing something and just getting started. So we have tons of resources out there to help you with that. And I don't want to, you know, make light of the personal statement at all, because there's nothing light about it. But just since this is more of an overview, we're going to move on. And the
Before you move on, Dr. Martinelli, I want to say
yeah,
one last thing, if that's okay.
yeah, of course.
One thing to keep in mind when you're writing this personal statement is knowing your target audience, and number two, knowing the goal of this essay. So if you give a well-written personal statement to a literary expert and don't explain the narrow target audience and the narrow goal, they will rip it to shreds. And that's why one of the many reasons why the personal statement is so difficult to write is because it's such an unusual document. And, you know, with the narrow target audience, you know, these informative statements such as, you know, it takes hard work and dedication to become a physician. Well, you're preaching to the choir, and it's going to come off as really condescending, those types of statements. And the goal of the essay, you know, an illustration of that is sometimes students will write about a very transformative, you know, experience when they were shadowing, but they end up, you know, showcasing the skills of the physician they shadowed, which doesn't do anything for the goal.
Good point. Dr. Nelson, I want to ask you as ER, how do you feel about when students, I've seen this so many times where students were like part of a code, like, and for those of you that don't know, like code is basically when a patient is crashing and on the verge of death. And so every healthcare practitioner around rushes in to try to save this patient. And it's pretty dramatic and often terrible experience. But I've seen a lot of students write about, oh, the time I was part of a code and essentially how neat it was. What are your thoughts on that? Because I always read that and I just kind of am like, it almost shows a lack of maturity, just because there's nothing good about a code. Of course, like it is an adrenaline pumping experience, and it's pretty fascinating to see the things we can do and the healthcare team coming together to really work to save a patient. But like, codes are terrible. Like,
Yeah,
they
they
are
are.
one of the worst parts of medicine, because they're just the outcomes are not usually good.
Right.
Anyways, I just thought I'd
Yeah,
sidebar on that.
I've not seen it done well many times. The only times I've seen it work is if the student writes from the perspective of what they did during the code.
Yeah.
So like if they were doing chest compressions and kind of the emotions behind breaking the ribs and you know, how they reconciled with that, and or if they were kind of being a liaison with the family and kind of consoling family during the code, that would work. But for the most part, it doesn't. You're right.
Yeah, totally agree. So thanks you guys so much for joining us this morning. This was a lot of fun. Dr. Nelson, it's always a pleasure. So I appreciate your company.
My pleasure too. So thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Nelson, Dr. Marinelli. You guys are awesome admissions experts and really have helped so many students along the way. This was an awesome presentation.